Good evening and welcome to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show, the live chat edition. So, of course, my name is Alina, and it is my absolute pleasure to be guiding us through this evening's discussion. Now, today I'm joined by Rollocks from VisionWorks for a deeper discussion about legacy. Many of you would remember that last Sunday we streamed a conversation featuring Rawle as we discussed creating a living legacy. As an extension to this initial conversation, the intention this evening is to facilitate a discussion that will now showcase how we can implement these principles shared last day into our everyday lives. Today's focus is activating the practice of living a legacy. So, without delay, I want to welcome Roll to our live chat edition. So, good evening, Roll. How are you this evening?
Good evening, Lena, and to the Caribbean parenting community, all the parents out there. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, I mean, our conversation last Sunday was nothing short of awesome. We got into a lot of details. I know that a lot of our parents, they expressed, those who wrote in, those who called in, those who messaged in, they were really expressing how informative the session was. And even as, we would have chatted off camera, we would have discussed that, we really want to share a bit more about the everyday application, the day-to-day application of creating that living legacy. So our parents are joining now. New to them because it's the first time they're joining in. Can you take a minute to share with our audience what does it mean to live a legacy?
Well, the thing about a legacy, there are many definitions out there, but I would like to speak to the issue of living a legacy, the title that we're using, and that the things that we do every day that leave a mark, an indelible mark for the future, whether it's our children or all those who are influenced by us. One working definition I like is the valuables and the values that we leave for those that come behind. And it's a very pertinent issue today. Even now, we see all that's happening with the protest and some of what's going on the streets, and that's a pretty good example of a legacy, because a legacy can, it's neutral, it can be negative or positive. In other words, no matter what you do, you're going to leave some type of legacy. So you really need to be intentional about leaving a positive one. And right now we're seeing the pain, a painful legacy on our streets today. So it's a very, very pertinent issue, and one that impacts all of us every day of our lives.
So, Rol, what would you say, even as we talk about activating living the legacy, what would you say is important for parents, adults, to remember as it pertains to living legacy? We understand what it involves, how we can do it, but sometimes, it's a challenge when we have to break that down into the everyday experience. So, could you start us off by sharing a bit more in terms of what adults need to be mindful of when we haven't thought about it before? We've been introduced to this concept, and now we want on an everyday basis to take action. How do our listeners start taking action that says, I am now living in legacy and living from a place of creating legacy?
I think a good place is to understand how a legacy is passed on. A legacy can be passed on by the words that we use, what we say. A legacy can be passed on by our actions, our examples. Or legacy can be passed on by something we literally leave behind, something in writing, something that we've written, something that we've done. Or it can also be passed on in terms of property, physical property. All right. So when we understand how it's passed on, we'll realize that everything we do on a daily basis is creating a legacy. The examples that we set for our children. So a very good place, I think, to start for any adult to understand is their own example. They have to go within. So the journey begins looking inside, taking a look at your purpose, what you're about, and what example do you really, really want to leave behind? What do you want people to see to and be able to use that example in their own lives? Those important value systems that you want passed on. I think some people have not taken the time really to really work this out. What are my core values? What are those things that are critical to me, essential, that are so important that they fashion how I live and why I live. They fashion my very purpose. So that's a very good thing for every parent, any parent, even any adult, because you don't start thinking about legacy only when you have children. You start leaving a legacy once you begin to breed. We begin leaving a legacy in our workplace, the type of patterns, the time we come to work, how we do our work, how we professionalism, how do we treat with the other person, how do we treat with our neighbors. All these things are practical things that teach those that come behind very important values that they must emulate. So taking stock is a good place to start. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What am I good at? What are the things that I need to work on myself? And as you begin to work on those things, those are the things that those that come behind you can emulate.
I totally understand. So, at this stage in our live chat, I want to check in with one of our parents that we have in studio. So, I'm just going to switch you out for a minute, Roll, and I want to switch over to Chanel, who is a parent of 3 kids, and I want to bring her in now. So, Chanel,
Hi, good
hi,
night.
good evening, welcome. Thanks for joining us here. I want to reflect a little bit with you because I know you'd have tuned in to the last conversation we had about introducing the idea of creating this living legacy. And my question to you is, as you reflect on that episode, what stands out to you? What did you take away? What did you learn that was significant to you in considering the idea of creating this legacy, especially for your family and with your family unit?
Well, definitely for me is what I've learned is to keep a little more focus on the examples that I set because every little thing matter in how I groom them and raise them up. So as parents, every little thing will count. The way that I cook or the way that I speak, those things will stand out in their minds and they too will, when they look to have a family in the future, it will make a significant impact.
All right. And even as you consider the conversation that you sat in and listened to, do you have any questions in your mind right now as it pertains to creating that living legacy for your family, for your kids, and so on?
For me, it would be like in during this time, this pandemic, this how the world is gradually changing. How can I continuously make that impact and deal with the issues, current issues, and help build them up through it.
All right. So I'm going to keep you on the line and I'm going to bring Roll back in. So, Roll, we're chatting and we're saying during this pandemic, how do we give a focus to legacy during this time? Because this time is so critical for many.
Yes, I think it's a very important time. It's a time where that most of us would only live once in our lifetimes, you know. Well, hopefully that is. And one of the most important things I believe is how do we deal with crisis? Crisis is a part of life. And one of the important things we can teach our children, we can demonstrate to our children, is what do you do when a crisis comes around? All right. This is a time that's having all kinds of impact all over the earth, but there's also opportunity. And I think being able to demonstrate to our children that there's an opportunity, there's a way that we can look at this. We can take a negative perspective, we can take a positive perspective. If we take that positive perspective, we will begin to see opportunities. All right. And there are many opportunities that you would see. You see different types of businesses opening up. You see situations where family can spend more time together. There's so much that can come out of it. And just that example alone can help our children because they are going to face their own crisis. They are going to face their own challenges. And to show them that you can come out of this being sharing a deeper bond, I think can augur so well for our children as they face their challenges in the road ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. So even as we continue in with the conversation, again, I want to switch you out, Roland, and I want to bring in Simone to really share, have her share with us about creating a legacy from a maternal perspective. So we're switching again. Hi, Simone. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Alina. I am fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I am good. Thanks. Really appreciate us. And I wanted to have you join in this live chat by sharing, as a mom, when you think about living a legacy, creating a living legacy, what elements for you stand out and you think it's important for moms to keep in mind as they support their family unit and support their kids?
Right. So I'm a mother of four children. I have three girls, two are adults, and one is a 12-year-old preparing for SCA. And I have a son who's 15 years old. And in terms of legacy and leaving a living legacy, like Chanel said, it is about the practical things that we do and being intentional and really conscientious about what we're doing. So I like to take a simple example like washing weights. And for me, I will look at, okay, what are we doing? We're washing the wares. Why are we doing it? Because we're taking care of the things that we own, if you want to call it your assets, the things that you have. And very importantly, how do you do it? And I think those three key things are important to leaving a living legacy. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I doing it? And this is what I would want my children to understand and take away with them. So, for example, when they're washing the wares, there's certain, if you're doing a cup, it's different to how you're washing a plate. But the principle remains the same, meaning you must be thorough, make sure you get inside and outside, check it to make sure it is clean, it's not greasy. So as a mom, I want my children to have these values because I think it also contributes to their character. And I mentioned my daughter being in SCA. She's the last one, the last of my four children who's doing SCA. And you know, Alina, one of the things that I said to myself, because we know that this time of SCA and exams is so competitive, I want my children to have character. And I think that is inherent in that is leaving them with a living legacy where if they have to have character, then who are they going to see it from? So as a mom in the home, we need to model it to show them that they must see, okay, and you know, it's not so much what we say. Yes, it's what we say, but it's also what we do, how we demonstrate it to them. So the importance of it as a mother is for my children to know that character is important, and that's a big part of leaving a legacy for me.
You know, Simone, you mentioned two things that stand out that I absolutely love. The first one is that you mentioned principles, because sometimes I can imagine for persons that have really never thought about it before, it could be a bit overwhelming to try to think, where do I start with this whole legacy? But I love that word that you use, which is principle, because it really reminds parents that it's not just about the outcome. What is the process, the way of thinking, the way of acting that we want to teach our kids, the way we make decisions, because that's where our principles start jumping in. So I'm loving that piece that you mentioned. And you know, in the first episode, Rawle took a minute to talk about the values that you hold with family. And clearly, the second major point that I really took from what you were sharing had to do with character. And you know, as a mom, as a dad, anybody, as a parent, you could take a view to say, hey, we want to develop character in our kids, and then really take a step back and say, okay, step further to establish what is that character building all about? How does it look? How does it reflect it? So one more question for you, Simone, before we switch out to
Sure.
another parent. In your home, when you think about character building, what is essential, or what do you think about that you're plugging in there, so that when you communicate with your kids and so on, you're able to guide them along in what you perceive to be good character building?
Right. So, Alina, I thought about it because there are lots of good values that are out there. So, I looked at what is core to me that's important that I want my children to display, to take any workplace, to take any community, to take in school, to take at church, to take anywhere they go. And I said, okay, I want them to be able to embrace it. So I decided, okay, I need to get a savvy acronym that they're going to love. And I came up with D Rich Kids, right?
Okay.
DRICH. Sounds fun, sounds exciting, sounds like something they want to be
Right.
associated with. That's the easy part. Let me tell you, but I decided, okay, let me work on the first one for maybe the first 2 months. It was not like that. It's not like they will grab it and go with it. So I had to figure out, okay, how do I get this to be a part of them naturally? So what I would do at the end of the day, when we meet back up from when I come home from work, they're home, I would say, okay, so how was your day? And when they're sharing with me, a certain incident might come up, something that happened in the classroom or with a friend, and I would ask them, I said, okay, which of the core values do you think that is? Or do you think that missed? So I try to make it practical for them because once it's practical for them, I think it's better for them to understand it and think about putting it into practice. So one of the things I did was have that nice name, but I will tell you, it's like kneading flour. You have to push it, mix it, push it, because it's not going to be something that they will not
Yeah.
take off on and go forward with. So as parents, our role is not just to present it to them, but we also have to massage it in so that they understand it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's so easy sometimes to give up when we start doing something and we don't automatically start seeing the results that we want. But definitely, you're giving a great reminder to those tuning in live and those who would catch the replay to remember that when you're getting into a process of saying, I want to establish principles that would lead towards living in legacy. You're not going to get results right away, but we keep working at it. We keep that patience. I thank you so much for
Yes,
that
we do.
contribution, Simone.
Sure.
So I'm just
Thanks.
going to put you in the background for a minute. Yeah. Of course, we
Thank
bring
you.
in Arnold. We have Arnold Best in with us. And I want to bring him in to really take a moment about living in legacy and to really share a paternal perspective. So, hi, Arnold. Good
Hi,
evening.
Alina. Thank you for having
And
me.
of course,
Good evening.
so happy to have you here. It's a wonderful discussion that I'm sure many would benefit from. And, in like manner, I would love to be able to hear from you, Arnold. When you think about creating and living in legacy, you think about your kids, your family unit. What do you think it's important for men to understand as they probably get on this drive and say, hey, let's take it to another level?
All right. You see, the thing about it, it's important for men to really be a part of that process. As leaders in our homes, one of the things that we missed out on is just being a parent, and not understanding that we are also leaders. They follow us, they see us, they pattern from us, they model us. So again, it's very important of our actions and how we really see ourselves as men. But talking about legacy, it must go beyond my kids, and
Right.
whatever I have done now as in creating this legacy, they must better it. and their kids must better it, and their kids must better it. So it's a never-ending improvement as far as I see, creating a legacy, because legacy in just having just the name and creating certain standards and values, but it's also about improving these values and standards along the way, you know? So yeah, that is one of the things I would look at, creating the standards and the values and keeping it improving continually.
As a dad, yeah. Okay, as a dad, Arnold, could you give, for the men that would be listening, can you give an example of standards and values, maybe that even that you promote among your own family members and that within that family unit, so that men who are maybe struggling to think about standards and values could have an illustration to work with?
All right. Most of the times, I think most men struggle with their daughters, right? And one of the things that, as a father, having grown daughters, one of the things I always try to instill in them is always live with grace. No matter what you have, no matter where you live, no matter what you acquire in life, live with grace. Be humble, you know, and always understand that everything that you're living, everything that you are creating, right? It's not just about getting things easy. You have to work towards it. And one of the things as a father is always protection. And one of the legacies I always, I bring on to my daughters is protecting themselves. Because sometimes as a father, for me personally, I will leave them. I will allow them to go through their pain. I wouldn't just be the dad to be protecting them, even I know if they're wrong or right. Allow them to go through that pain, to understand that pain. Right? As I said earlier on, I may not be the best of finding all the answers, but they will improve along the way for their kids. So my thing for my daughters and my son too, I have a son as well, and I don't want to leave him out. But that's a different me personally, him and I have a good relationship. So I don't have much but challenge with him. But for my daughters, it always depends on daddy. Because they see the man that I am, and one of the things, funny enough, one of the things I always tell them, don't look for anyone like me. Because they always find that I have to find someone like you. You know? And I was like, no, don't look for anybody like me. Make them better than me. Find them, create that legacy of, okay, they could see more in them than what you saw in me. But again, it's all about improvement. We just can't leave that legacy and leave it there, what daddy has created or what you have created as a parent, and then leave it there, because along the way, if they don't understand the improvement of that, they will keep it, and it will continue creating the same patterns, the same cycle.
Okay, great. Thank you for that contribution. So we just want to switch out again, and I want to turn back to Rawle, and I want to ask Rawle, listening to Arnold, listening to Simone, and considering what you would have shared a week ago, what are your thoughts so far, even as we're in this discussion, that you probably want to just stick in right here, that says this is great for the understand about maternal perspectives and paternal perspectives as it relates to creating that living legacy and actioning it out?
One of the things that jumped out at me so far, and it's related to my introduction, is the importance of being intentional. You know, at this moment, we are seeing a legacy around us in the streets. All right. If we have to be intentional, and this is one of the things I'm getting from Simone and Arnold, they have given it some thought. They have looked at themselves, they have looked at their situation, they're looking at the future, and they're putting some things in place intentionally. It's not just something that just happens. If you want to have that kind of legacy, you have to put some effort, some elbow grease into it. You have to think it through, and you have to think about your strategies, and as Simone said, massage them in. So that's one of the big things, takeaways for me, being intentional about it. Be deliberate.
Great, got it. I want to go back. I want to revisit paternal perspective, and I want to pull Randall in. We have Randall Douglas in the room with us. Hi, good evening, Randall.
Hi, good evening. I'm all right. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly. Thank you.
No
So we're
problem.
just revisiting the notion of the paternal perspective, and just with the understanding that just the mere fact that men and women are different, our perspectives and our points of focus sometimes as it pertains to legacy and elements in the home, how we raise our kids, how we channel the family unit might be a little different. So can you share with us your thoughts as it pertains to what do you think fathers should be mindful of as they consider creating that living legacy or promoting it even more within their homes?
Sure. One of the perspectives I think is very interesting, certainly for me and as a father, is and actually is even shared by my wife in that way, but certainly something that I think that fathers can consider, is what your legacy is as far as work ethic and being progressive in terms of achievement in life. So one of the things that with my two daughters that we have shared, and so many things that I have worked with them, and both my wife and I have done that actually, is both when I was working for other people in terms of being employed by other people, passing that idea of what does daddy do and involving them. So it's not just to be, well, I'm tired, I can't talk to you, or well, what does daddy do? And sharing my day, sharing my experience with them so that they have a perspective both for their own working life when they get into it, as they get into it, as they're growing into it, as well as even when I became a business consultant for the last 10 years now, would be bringing them into that work environment, seeing sometimes what daddy does, understanding what daddy does with clients and things like that. It all made a difference from a point of view of not just being a remote sort of thing that we don't talk to daddy about or daddy is frustrated, but also even respecting daddy in his space too, when I may be working at home or if I had to do something. And I think as men and as parents in general, sometimes we fall into that trap of saying, well, gosh, I'm too tired, I don't want to talk about that today. Or you wouldn't understand because you're only, I don't know, 8 or whatever it is. But I think if we make that effort and we're able to explain and break it down sometimes simply, it goes a long way from a legacy point of view, either from the point of view of legacy as far as passing on the traits and the work habits that we want, as well as legacy in terms of if you own a business, whether it could be anything, it could
Yeah.
be a small parlor, it could be a big business, passing on legacy in terms of the idea of entrepreneurial behavior, the idea of being able to push forward and do what they want to do, even if it's not your own business. I think that is an important thing that we can do as parents and especially as men as well in this society.
I like that because two things that I really just pulled out of what you were just sharing is, on one hand, you're reminding men and fathers the importance of communicating, and that's important. And a lot of women they have this habit of saying, "You don't like to talk." And if we were to say it, it's probably a little bit true. Then we want to encourage men and fathers of the importance of talking, communicating. But the second complementary thing that you just shared that I absolutely love as well is the importance of sharing your life. Because sometimes society has a way of sort of just putting daddy in a little corner because daddy's the hard worker, he's maybe the provider, he makes sure the house running, but then mommy is the one the kids run to. And I love that you're emphasizing the importance of daddies taking that moment to share their lives. Take time to tell your kids about your day, open your world to them so they understand what you do, how it makes you feel, how you respond to situations. Because indeed, that is going to contribute towards helping them establish those traits that you talked about, the positive or the habit. So I'm totally loving what you shared. Thank you so very much. And totally loving this conversation. I want to return to Chanel for a minute. So thank you. I'm just going to put you in the background for a minute. So Chanel, I'm coming back to you. Even as you're listening in and you're thinking about your own family, now that you're getting in care of thinking about the maternal perspective to living in legacy, what are your thoughts in this moment?
Well, being a mommy of three boys is a bit, I would say a little tricky, sometimes a challenge. And, to connect with that male, bring out that, because normally the daddies normally do that connection. So being intentional is definitely in what I do and how I do it for them, give them, build that strength in them, being able to conquer and accept defeat and understand how to work through certain things in life is definitely a point for me. to focus on with them.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that, Chanel. And I want to bring in, we have Deborah in studio with us. Hi, Deborah. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes, I can, Alina.
Hi, how are
Finally.
you?
I am good. Very, very good.
I'm happy you
Finally.
got to come in. Yeah.
Yes, because I logged
So I
on
don't know if
first.
you've
I'm
heard
hearing
any of the
everything.
conversation before.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So we've been talking about we've been talking about the maternal perspective, and I want to just get your views on how do you uh, engage that living that legacy in your home? What do you think is important for moms and women to remember as they engage that part to say, I want to live from a place of legacy?
Okay, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me. I am a mother of one adult and a grandmother of one, and I teach the young adults and so on. So I have a range of human interaction, for want of expression. But what made me go towards that area is I think of it as the eulogy value as against the resume value, right? Because I'm thinking once you have a guideline to follow, which is a good history, which stands for the highest point values and the deepest convictions, you have something basically to follow through. Like my son, well, he doesn't live here, he lives in Alaska. And I've taught him a lot of things along the line, how to carry yourself, love yourself, find things that you like because, you're in a strange land, you know, inspire others, respect others, things that would carry you through that people remember you by, that they would say, okay, I remember this person said that. And even teaching vacation Bible school and so on in the Mova area. I was able to let a lot of them and a lot of these gang children, because in my class had a lot of gangs, and we were able to sort out a lot of things where that they had no value at all as to where they're going socially, you know, um, work wise, the whole 9 yards. So we were able to take them back to a eulogy standpoint of understanding who they are. First, to love their life, love the life that you have, to have an enthusiastic way about carrying yourself, so that others who are looking on at you, they'll be able to say, well, okay, I'm seeing something working in spite of how my life may have been going bad, right? To be grateful and thankful, because some of them have come out of they never got this, they don't have this, and we're seeing it on the news right now as to what it is. Because like last night I was listening and the young man was saying how he grew up on his father, but he had no value as to say why he did or what he's doing, has any purpose of it. So I like to take them anytime when the young people come to me along those lines. I like to lead them along that line, what it is you're striving for
Yeah.
as a character, you know, along those lines. That's it basically.
Great. Okay, so what I'm hearing you share, Deborah, is that you're sharing a lot about using that nurturing instinct when we think about the maternal perspective, because what you're saying is that there are many that, in order to activate that understanding of wanting to live from a place of legacy, sometimes you have to nurture them through, yeah? Oh, I think Deborah's sound is a little frozen. But Deborah, thank you so much for sharing that. I want to do something fun with you guys. I want to bring all of you on, and we'll call it the legacy game. And we're gonna have some fun. And so, three things, even in our discussion, that stood out this evening. I've been taking my notes. My pen is in my hand. Values, principles, and habits. And so I'm imagining those listening that want to take it just even more nitty gritty, as we say here in the Caribbean. I want you to tell our audience an example that you engage in your home as a means of promoting legacy that they too can promote in their home. Values. Nobody's allowed to give the same value twice, right? So if someone says what you're thinking, I want you to think of another one. No double answers, right? So when we think about values, Arnold, what value are you encouraging parents to be mindful of or to encourage in their home? Values.
Respect. Respect
Okay.
is always
Mm-hmm.
important because within respecting yourself and respecting, you hear me? Yeah, respect yourself, or respecting the people around you, the people you interact with every day. So respect is one of the values I'm very, very important in my home.
Good. So we're starting off with respect. Respect is a great value that should be encouraged in the home. Oh, I'm hearing someone's sound bouncing off. If by any reason you're not on a headphone and it might be you, can I ask you to mute your mic so that we don't have the reverberation? Thanks so much. So yes, with Arnold's encouraging to remember the value of respect. Great. Chanel, what's your value contribution? Oh, Chanel disappeared on us. So we're down to Simone. Simone, what's your value contribution? Oh, I'm wondering if it's me. 1 minute, Simone. Sorry. Can you say that again, please? I didn't catch you there.
Sure. I said discipline. My son is an avid football.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an avid football player and he has some natural skills, but I have to tell him, you still have to be disciplined about it. And that means practicing, it means understanding where your gaps, and it also, what I also tell him is once you're disciplined, it's supposed to spill over into other areas of your life. So it's supposed to spill over into your academic work life, into whatever you do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Simone. Okay, awesome. Deborah, what value are you encouraging this evening?
To be grateful, to be thankful at all times. Never
Can
dam
you
the
repeat
bridge
that,
that you
please?
cross.
All
That,
right. Okay, okay.
to be grateful, to be thankful.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we're encouraging gratitude role. What value are you encouraging?
For me, it would be the importance of giving and sharing. We live in a community and we live in a world where you can be forced to just think of yourself and your own situation. Be mindful of those around you. Be mindful of that friend at school that doesn't have. Be mindful of that neighbor that you can help. Be mindful of a cousin or someone else that you can reach out to and lend a helping hand. So that would be the important value I would emphasize now.
Okay, great. Randall, what value are you choosing to share with our audience this evening?
I would like to share the value of empathy. And it's something that I use in my work, but it's something that we definitely practice as a family. And I think in the context of what we're talking about today, I think from a Trinidadian culture perspective and a West Indian culture even, we don't often empathize enough or put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. If we do so, we would really understand a lot better of what that person is going through and be able to really work through some of our differences or come together with forging solutions. So that value of empathy, I think, is critically important as we move into the new world, whether it be COVID, whether it be technology, and just forging that path ahead in terms of working together. Empathy is a critical part.
Awesome. So now we're talking about principles because a theme that transcended just about encouraging, establishing principles as part of creating and living in legacy. So, Arnold, we're going to go with you again. What principle are you encouraging parents to be mindful of?
One of the things that, all right, you hear me now, right? One of the things that I encourage my kids within the principle, we thought, again, a feedback, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
One of the principles is basically understanding. All right. We good here? You all hear me, right? I just get enough feedback.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, good. Yeah. One of the principles, though, is understanding who you are, who they are as young women or young men. That's the principle that we lose along the way, because within growing up, parents doesn't really give us that knowledge of who we are as a human being, who we are as a people, who we are as where we are from and whatnot. So one of the things I instilled in them is to understand and live that principle of who you are. Always be true to yourself.
All right, great. So let's head across to Rawle. What principle are you encouraging, Rawle?
As you sow, you will reap. the the idea of hard work and discipline and tolerance and reward, there's a shortcut, and you have to work hard and you have to be time for the things that you expect to receive, and don't live your handout. Dependable. Be willing to put your contribution in, and you will see that coming back in life. Don't just be a taker, be a giver.
Awesome. Okay, great. And Deborah, principal. What principle are you encouraging this? Oh, Deborah popped out on us. Is she still here? What principle are you encouraging, Deborah?
Yes, for good.
What principle are you
Try
encouraging?
for good characteristics. Right? That your character will be epic for the land.
Got it. And last but certainly not least, we want to talk about habits. What habits are you encouraging parents to be mindful to encourage within the home, Arnold?
Oh, well, I think it was Rondell. Someone said it just now about gratitude. I am very big on gratitude because of understanding that gratitude fills the soul. Gratitude is something that we must encourage our kids, no matter what. Every one of us have something to be grateful for, and sometimes we lose track of that. So for me, gratitude will always up, always.
Got it. Randall, what habit are you encouraging parents to remember to include as they live and create that place of a legacy life?
I would say for me, the habit is what I would call active listening. Certainly, we always say that we listen, and we may hear someone, but we're not listening in terms of what they are doing, what they're really saying to us. And it goes off that way, of course, with our children. We have to be actively listening to what they're saying, mirroring back to them to make sure that we're showing that we understand. For us to really be able to comment or add to the discussion, or even for us to learn from them. And I think that goes a long way if we can practice that habit, make sure it's part of our daily regimen from the time we're dropping off in the morning or saying goodbye to all the way in the evening when we may be coming home late, or if they're coming back from lessons or whatever. Active listening is a key part of really having a healthy, really great communication sort of foundation, and of course building a legacy.
Got it. Simone, habit. What habit are you encouraging our moms and dads to be mindful of?
Taking time to connect with our children. And it's big for me because it's one of the big gaps for me. Sometimes my workday is so intense that I'm focused on the work so much so that even if you have to switch from it, you may be disconnected from them. So I have to consciously remind myself, and I will remind parents, to stay connected to our children by simply asking them, okay, what did you do today? or making a joke with them so that it lightens the mood. I know for me, because the day could be so intense, I actually have to make a mental switch when I am going to talk with them. And because each of my children are different personalities, I have to be mindful in my approach and what I say, how I connect with them.
Awesome. And of course, finally, Deborah, habit. What in habit are you encouraging parents to keep in mind as they build for a life of legacy?
Have to communicate to their children. As Simone just said, she has different personalities in her home. And we got to be careful how we say, when we say, and who we say it to, so that they're not being offended. So choose your words carefully to communicate with them.
Great, thank you. Now, before we go back to Rawle to do the final wrap up, I have a favorite question I always ask, and I want to do it with you guys too. How was today's chat for you? Because I know we're winding down. Arnold, how was today's chat for you?
Let me put on my mic. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's interesting that you have this platform to really encourage parents. And then your topic about legacy is so important because most parents don't use that word. Most parents don't think of a
Yeah.
legacy or leaving a legacy or living a legacy in order for their kids to really follow. So I had fun. I thank you guys for having me here today.
Thank you for being here. Randall, how was today's chat for you?
Well, the chat for me was excellent. I mean, it's really great. I think the topic is very pertinent at this time, and it was great to be part of it, hearing the perspective of the other parents. And certainly, legacy, as Anna said, is a key part of where we need to be headed. But we're so caught up in our daily lives, and it's important that we think about legacy and the role that we're playing with our children where that is concerned, because that is no cliche in saying it is the future. So I'm grateful and thankful to be part of the panel today.
And appreciative to have you here. Simone, how was today's chat for you?
Ooh, it was beautiful. I remember speaking to my dad just last week. I was telling him something that happened at work with me. And his comment was, you get that from the black mans. So it reminded me that what he was talking about is legacy, something he saw me practice that was spoken about, that he identified with his family. And I'm also seeing it with my children. So it was really live and practical to me. What I love is the different contributions from the other parents, because sometimes you're not sure you're doing it right. Like Arnold said, you just don't have all the answers. But as parents, I think we have that instinct inside of us. And when we want better, we'll get there. Yeah.
Yes.
So I thoroughly
Yes,
enjoyed today.
thank you.
Thank you for having me, Alina.
Appreciate you joining in. Deborah, how was today's for you?
In right now, I would really like to see this go forward and wider. I'm not sure about a seminar. Certain people with their name starting with S normally have nice seminars. And she's on this chat too, that we can also have, spread it open widely to other persons. Because it's needed to be outspoken out there, because legacy is something not spoken about, but it's in dire need of. So we need to get the wider community, the wider people out there to understand, to start doing it, so our future will be tipper-topper as we would want it to be.
Yeah, and Chanel, how was today's chat for you?
Definitely informational. I was happy to hear a lot of the other parents' perspective on how they will treat with legacy per se. So it's definitely an eye opener for me.
Awesome. So to all our parents checking in with us, I appreciate you guys so much for taking time out to chat. So, Rawle, we want to just close off. And in closing off, I want to use I think it's one of your favorite lines. Start with the end in mind. As we think about legacy and we think about starting for all those parents who are now starting, what final words do you want to leave with parents as we activate the practice of living a legacy?
I think a good place to start is where we are, right? Where when I started in the introduction, I spoke about what's going on the streets right now. That's an example of legacy. Every time we have to go to the bank or we have to go seek employment, every action, there's the aspect of legacy in it. Every challenge that we face, everything that we when we look around, and the time we're at this place in the world where we have to be an active part of it. And if nothing else, I'd like parents encourage to do it themselves and to encourage their children to not just look and be a standby, to look at a distance. Get involved, understand that we need all hands on deck to solve the problems that we face as a community, as a nation. And being a part of this, I think, is a great legacy that you can leave. Encourage your children to be a part, get involved, volunteer, help out someone who's unfortunate, mentor a young man, mentor a young lady, get involved in some way, and live a life that's worth imitating. Every day and everywhere we're leaving a legacy. So I encourage them
Awesome.
to live that life.
I understand. Thank you so much, Rawle. So, mummies, daddies, aunties, and uncles, thank you for tuning in once again to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. Today, we featured a live chat giving great content with our facilitator, Rollocks, who came back to be with us, and also a number of guest parents that shared. There were great practical points given. We have no excuse again because we all understand we can start where we are and we could start now and we can practice habits and principles every single day to live our best, limited to how much money we have or how much wealth we build, but it's about the quality of life, and legacy is so well connected with that. So thank you so much to all our viewing audience live and with the replay. We appreciate you taking time to log in, like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, all that good stuff. But most importantly, share this video with a parent that you believe would be impacted, whose life is going to be transformed, and or someone who really needs that practical guide to understand how to get it started tonight. So have a great one, and until next time,